We're starting off with a look at the global markets, where Asian stocks are on the rise after a strong showing from tech companies in the US. The Nasdaq 100 index had a big bounce back yesterday, led by gains in chip stocks, which is good news for investors who have been watching the sector closely. In other news, the Bank of Japan is meeting today to discuss interest rates, and all eyes are on whether they'll make any changes. The yen has been surging against the dollar, and traders are waiting to see if the BOJ will signal any future rate hikes. We're also keeping an eye on the US economy, where consumer spending and business investment remain strong despite some moderation in growth. And with the Federal Reserve holding interest rates steady, investors are trying to figure out what it all means for their portfolios. Over in Europe, the Eurozone economy is showing signs of resilience, with growth beating expectations in the second quarter. And in the world of individual stocks, Apple and Amazon are making headlines after their latest earnings reports. We'll be taking a closer look at all these stories and more throughout the show. Our goal is to give you a balanced view of what is happening in the world of finance without any hype or bias. So sit back, relax, and let's get started on this journey through the Riskwiser Zone. We'll be right back with more from the world of stocks and finance on the Riskwiser Zone. Welcome back to the Riskwiser Zone. We're diving into the world of tech and semiconductors with a fascinating story about Intel. The company has made a rare move by providing its chip technology to a startup called Rosaic Labs Incorporated. This startup is led by Amarjit Gill, a seasoned venture capital investor and chip industry executive who has a history of co-investing with Intel CEO Lip-Bu Tan. According to reports, Intel is granting Rosaic access to its Atom technology, which is the building block of central processors that run on the company's x86 architecture. This move is unusual for Intel, as the company has historically been protective of its intellectual property and hasn't widely licensed pieces of its x86 architecture or provided Atom tech to other companies. The partnership between Intel and Rosaic Labs Incorporated raises interesting questions about the future of the semiconductor industry. On one hand, it could be seen as a strategic move by Intel to foster innovation and stay ahead of the competition. On the other hand, it could also be viewed as a potential risk, as Intel is sharing its valuable intellectual property with a relatively new player in the market. It's worth noting that Rosaic Labs Incorporated has an impressive founding team, with veterans from Rivos, another chip company that was acquired by Meta last year. The company's CEO, Amarjit Gill, has a track record of success in the industry, and his connection to Intel CEO Lip-Bu Tan adds an extra layer of intrigue to this story. As we consider the implications of this partnership, it's essential to remember that the semiconductor industry is highly competitive and constantly evolving. Companies like Intel must navigate complex relationships with startups, investors, and other industry players to stay ahead of the curve. With this development, investors and industry watchers will be keeping a close eye on how this partnership unfolds and what it might mean for the future of Intel and the broader tech landscape. Welcome back to the Riskwiser Zone. Chevron and ExxonMobil's subsidiaries, such as Chevron Corporation and ExxonMobil's affiliated companies like Imperial Oil, have reported significant increases in their quarterly earnings. Chevron's adjusted earnings of $6.06 a share surpassed expectations by 41 cents, making it the company's largest quarterly net income since 2022. This surge in profits can be attributed to the increased margins from crude production to refining and trading, as petroleum buyers are forced to bid up prices for alternatives to Persian Gulf crude due to restricted ship traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. Similarly, ExxonMobil's affiliated companies have also seen significant gains. While Chevron's shares have only advanced about 3% since the beginning of the US-Iran war, The company has used this windfall to reduce debt by a record $8.4 billion and increase share buybacks by 20% to $3 billion. It's essential to note that these profits are largely driven by external factors, such as geopolitical tensions, rather than any significant changes in the company's operations. As such, investors should be cautious when interpreting these results, as they may not be sustainable in the long term. In fact, energy stocks have struggled despite these impressive earnings, with Chevron's shares rising less than 3% since the US-Iran war began. This suggests that investors are viewing these profits as short-term windfalls rather than a sign of long-term growth. As we conclude today's episode, it's crucial to remember that investing in the energy sector comes with its own set of unique risks and challenges. While some companies may be benefiting from current market conditions, it's essential to approach these investments with a critical and nuanced perspective. That's all for today's Riskwiser Zone. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, keep your finances in check.